Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and in this episode, I'm going to be tackling this Chevelle, which I already stripped and drilled out the posts because you've seen me do it 100 times. Paul from Diecast Graveyard reached out to me and wanted to do a buddy build. And to be honest with you, I've never essentially done I mean, I kind of have, but we didn't call it buddy builds. But anyways, it was more like a challenge or something like that. So I got some 3D printed parts that I'm going to be putting in: a motor, a seat, a nitrous bottle. I'm going to be redoing the interior. So he'd reached out and asked if we wanted to do this, and we kind of battled back and forth on what we wanted to do. And he suggested Chevelles. Now, Chevelles is pretty much one of my favorite castings. I probably have 400 Chevelles in my stash of die-cast cars. And very rarely do I actually customize them because I do enjoy the cars so much, and I've had multiple Chevelles myself as an owner, that I've always been kind of afraid that I'd screw it up or I'd just be way too critical. So I just never bothered. But he threw the gauntlet down, so I couldn't say no. So I picked this one, mainly because it's kind of unrealistic. So I figured I had some. I mean, it's not unrealistic, but it's already kind of street set up, so I didn't feel as bad. So you saw me doing the casting lines with a file, and then I'm going to go back over it with the sanding sponge that I use on my plastic models. These work really, really well. And then what I'm going to do is pretty much scribe out the lines, make sure they're deep enough to handle paint. So when I prime and paint, I don't fill in get rid of the detail that makes this what it is. So this is one of those projects I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but didn't know. Kind of hemmed back and forth. I know the color scheme that I wanted. And I knew I wanted to get rid of a few things that were on it and make it better. I didn't want to go crazy customizing. So what I'm going to do is I got these ferrules that I'm going to use as exhaust tips. So I'm going to cut off the exhaust tips that are there because the body already has a nice cutout. So you can kind of see there on the driver's side, I already kind of grooved it out a little bit. And that's just going to allow, keep putting two there for some reason, big fat fingers, but I'm only doing one on each side. Then I've got these wheels that I picked up a couple years ago. I don't even know the name of the company anymore because the package has been long gone, and the wheel's been sitting in my stash. So these are pretty nice because they actually press fit, so you can actually cut the axle. If you're not doing anything crazy, you can slide it back into the original spot and then just press the wheel on and not have to worry about it. It's actually kind of nice. I'm not crazy about this style of wheel, the low profile, but it kind of fit the car. Problem is, it was so low profile, the front splitter was rubbing on the ground, that's a good problem to have. Pretty easy to rectify if you sand it out. The back wasn't as bad, except the back was rubbing on the wheel wells. So that needed some caressing, let's just call it that, to clear it. I didn't want to raise the height too much, so because there really wasn't a lot there with the extended fenders, the wide body kit. So this was pretty basic, just taking a Dremel wheel, which you'll see in a second. Here, I'm always testing, and you want to constantly be fitting, and especially if you're doing customs, because there's things you can't think of, or you might not think of. The interior maybe not fitting the same if you're tubbing out the wheels, or the glass doesn't fit because you ended up putting some glue somewhere. It's best to multiple times put it together and try it. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. You can see I ground down those fender wells, and it's still a little too tight for my liking. And I'm trying to get it just right. I don't want to take too much off. So I just do a little bit at a time and test, do a little bit at a time, test until you get the result you want, which is, pretty much this, obviously being able to wheel it around and have the wheels freely move. So after cutting the interior, I ground it down with a Dremel barrel sander just to get it down flush. I'm going to cover everything with styrene anyways. But this is one of those builds that I was kind of nervous about doing because it's just, again, being a Chevelle, I didn't want to screw it up. And I ended up, I finished this actually almost a month early. And if anybody knows me, I'm doing stuff last minute. Yes, I do own a ruler. I do use it once in a blue moon. I usually like to wing it and trim things 5 times and waste pieces of styrene. But I do have rulers and micrometers and all this other stuff. Here I'm making a transmission tunnel. But like I was saying, I was kind of afraid to tackle this. And once I got into it, I figured I'll just start it. That way I get a head start. So last minute, I'm not trying to do everything. And then I just kind of like forgot everything else, all my other projects. And I just worked on this till it was actually done because I got into it. And sometimes that happens when you're doing a custom. Sometimes like the cool combi that I just did, that fights you the whole way. And then there's ones like this that just make up for it. It all goes according to plan. How you envisioned it is how it turns out. Pieces fit. It's unfortunately not always the case, but it does tend to happen on occasion. So I was kind of on a roll, and I didn't want to stop. And it just was a real fun build. The casting itself was clean. It was really nice to work with. The interior, even though I'm gutting it out, really you could just paint it and detail it. There's a lot of room to detail. So what I'm doing, if you can see, I'm going to end up cutting out the center of the chrome interior and make the center console that sweeps down from the dash hit the transmission tunnel like it would normally. And this allows me to just have a little bit more freedom with the seat and then this nitrous bottle and everything else. And yeah, I could have just put those in there anyways, but I kind of wanted to try making my own. I mean, it's really not a tunnel. It's just 2 pieces of styrene, but I just wanted to do that. So the next thing is I'm cutting the roll bar off. Then I got to sand it flush. And I'm also going to sand the back wheel well. They have like little tabs there that kind of stick out and rubs against the tire. So I just wanted to clean that up a little bit. I just wanted a flat base to work off of. And again, I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm replicating what was there. I'm just not molding it out of plastic. So I'm going to use brass rod. So here I'm drilling a couple holes that the brass rod's going to sit into for the roll cage. And I'm literally just mimicking what was there. But I guess you could say, why bother? Just keep what was there. Again, I'm trying different things, and I'm always trying to expand my skill set. I'm never going to be up to the level that some of these guys are, but if I don't push myself once in a while and just do things that I'm somewhat in my comfort zone, but sometimes just a little bit out, that's kind of how I grow. Everybody's different. I tried going full balls out with the cool combi, and that turned into an abortion. So this is a little bit more my style right now based on my skill set. I have actually used solder to hold these brass pieces together. It actually works really well. I just used glue this time. So everything's kind of ready for primer. I love this, the black primer. They also have gray and I think a Mr. Finishing. It's awesome. Just really light, goes on perfectly. And you can see I use that, to me, a panel line finisher for the grill. That works. That stuff is amazing. You just barely touch the tip of the brush to the area and it just fills it in really, really nice. And it's easy to wipe off if you screw up. So here I'm just detailing headlights, taillights, just trying to get a little bit more detail so things pop a little bit more. As you can see, I painted the interior, when I primed it black. That's a good base. And then I painted the roll cage. And the last thing that I needed to do before paint was to hack up the hood. So I drilled a few holes, and I'm going to use my coping saw or jeweler's saw to make a little spot for this motor that I have, this 3D printed motor, and then cleaning it up with a file and sanding and all this other crap. You can kind of see the motor there. It's obviously very big, so I'm going to be cutting it down so it sits on top of the interior chassis, and it'll be a nice, and it's something that it fits perfectly where I can add it after the car is painted. I'm not trying to stick it up there, and I can put the car on, put the whole thing together and then add that. So I'm getting ready for paint. I'm cleaning it with isopropyl alcohol just to get my paw prints off of it. I'm going to use Stynylrez as a primer. I love Stynylrez. It kind of sucks cleaning it, but here you can also see I'm pointing with my big-ass thumb. The side mirrors, I had some 3D printed side mirrors. It doesn't stay there. I end up having to put it back after. I end up painting it separately. I just touched it wrong, and I'm just too clumsy for that crap. So I did it after the fact. So there's the interior that's all ready to go. The motor, I used a spastic, the gloss black, and then the chrome over that. And I'm going to be using this this brown copper color. I kind of wanted to go subtle on this, and it's going two-tone, so they use the copper. It's almost like a chameleon. And then I get this burnt iron, which is like a sepia color. I wanted that for the spoiler, the side mirror that fell off, and the hood. And again, it's very subtle, and the video doesn't do it justice. You can see it probably better from that angle. So you can see I detailed the hood pins, the headlights, and the braces on the back of the spoiler. And I felt wicked bad. Years ago, or a year and a half ago, I think it was, Paul sent me some clear coat to try, and it was right when I was getting out of the hobby for a little while to take a break. And I wasn't doing any cars, so I'm actually doing it now. And for the life of me, I've got this airbrush just barely putting anything out, and it looks like I'm hosing this thing on with a water hose. I swear to God, it's not that bad. But this stuff goes on amazing. I use automotive 2K clear normally. I buy it by the pint or the half gallon, depends on how busy I am. And this stuff went on just as good, if not better. And it's obviously smaller, easier to manage. And what I did is I put on a light coat to start with, and then went back in 5 minutes and put a heavier coat, went back in another 5 minutes, put another heavier coat, and did it one more time. And this thing came out like glass. So if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell to get notified of any video I do. And here's the finished product. The hood scoop, I ended up, the air inlet, I ended up painting with a brush. It's a sepia color. It's close to the actual hood and spoiler. This was a fun car. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad Paul decided to go with the Chevelle. I got over my fear of doing Chevelles and being afraid to screw it up, or comparing my real cars to this, and I appreciate it. So make sure you head over to his channel and check out his video and all his videos. I'm going to have a link in the description below. And if you like what you see, give him a subscribe if you already have it. And thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.